How's it going, PhonLab? It's Root Junkie here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Docker build. Alright, so I'm going to have a fun example for you, and I will link all of it here below the video as well, with a ton of good information about using Docker build to build your own custom image. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is I've got this little file right here, docker site.zip, and I've extracted it right here. These are the three files I want to show you, and we're going to kind of talk through them, and then we're going to do a couple different fun things and showing you how we're going to use Docker build to use a Docker file and do all this, okay? We're going to open all these in Notepad. Let's look at the Docker file first. So the first thing you can see is the from, okay? And I kind of gave you these little notes, these little pound sign notes to kind of tell you, right? This is the base image, PHP. That's what we're running. And then what this does, Docker, or this run command, is it runs all of these commands. And it just, boom, runs them, they're done. So that's what's nice about using Docker build, is you can run a command that modifies the base image to your specific needs, okay? Then we're going to set the working directory to var www html. Then we're going to copy this SCR to this location, var www. Okay. Then we're going to expose port 9000, which exposes it for this image, and it allows things to communicate correctly with Nginx server, which you'll see here in a minute. And then you're going to basically tell it start is basically what this does. I've got it commented out right now because I don't need it, but you could use command this, and it basically starts it when you run it. Okay. So, that being said, now that you've got some information about this, let me explain. So this right here, this SCR, is going to take this folder right here, and it's going to copy it, right? It's going to copy that folder into var www html of the container, or of this image, this PHP image. So that's why I want you to kind of understand that. All right, let's look at the Docker compose file that actually starts this whole process, okay? So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to use an Nginx server, and you're going to go ahead and that's your base image, your container. Then you're going to say, okay, we're gonna put this on port 800 or 8800. And then we're going to expose it to the rest of the network, or the Docker container's port number is 80, which is just a normal HTTP network. You're going to set some volumes. You can see those. And right here, we have this file, right? Default config. That is this. And it's going to load that up. It's the default config of how everything's going to function together between these things. Okay, I'm just trying to go through it small. Then we're going to link what we're going to build, which is the PHP FPM from the Docker file to this stuff, right? And we're going to tell it /, which is going to build that from the location that we're running the Docker file, which is where everything is. And then another volume thing you can see of src var www html. And that's the Docker command. So these are the three files that we're going to utilize to try to run this site for us. So, and we're in the working directory. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here. Yep. And then we're going to say ls, and we want to cd to Docker, right? And then we want to cd to Docker site, ls. And there you can go, we have our Docker compose. So we're going to go ahead and just run this like it is. Actually, you know, first let's do this. Now that we're in this location, let's actually just build the Docker file, just so you can see how that's going to work. So if you come in here and we go to images, all right, see there's nothing in here about Docker site or anything like that, right? Okay. So what we're going to do is from our terminal, we're going to go ahead and build this. So we're going to do Docker build minus T. All right, this is going to allow us to set a name for this. So we're going to say Docker let's call it Docker Sites 2, just so we can keep things straight. And then we're going to put a colon, and then we're going to say this is latest, and then we're going to do a space, and then we're going to put a period, which basically tells it that the location of the Docker file is in Docker Sites by putting that period at the end, space period. So if this works, we should be able to build that PHP FPM from the build file. Okay, let's try it. Hit enter. And it's going ahead and doing the process to build all of that. Pretty cool, right? So everything's working, going through, and if everything works right, we're going to have this image. See here, you can see it's doing all the extra things. Okay, all done, right? All right, let's refresh this. Let's come back in here, go to images, and do we have one right there? Docker Sites 2. We just built an image from a Docker file using all the customization in that Docker file. Really, really cool, right? We didn't do a container, we just built an image. We can always run that image if we want using Docker run and some parameters, but we built it. All right, so that being said, let's come back in here, and this time let's do it from the Docker compose file, which will start the whole thing. So let's do Docker dash compose up minus D, and let's see if we get this to go. So here you go. It's pulling the Nginx image that is needed for this process. It's going through the build and started the network and started everything up. So if that worked correctly, back in here, you have a thing called Docker site, right? And it is up and running. Now, yep, you can look at it. That's cool. Let's go see. Let's go see what we exposed as. Oh, it was in the Docker file. So we exposed it at right there, 8,800. All right, so let's go into our browser, and we're gonna go to local host colon 8,800. Enter. Now, if I did this correctly, what should happen is we should have a fully functional website. Check it out. Oh, that's so cool. So this is a website called Directory Lister, and this is actually probably looks familiar to you guys because this is basically what I run, a modified version of it for my website that you probably all have seen, which is right. So this is a much more like finessed and cleaned up one, but it's the same thing right here. So we just launched a website directly from Docker with a Docker compose and a Docker build command and a configuration file, and voila, it's up and running. Pretty sick. So this is a fully functional site. I mean, you can see you can do theming, you can do searching, I mean, whatever. This site should work for you. Now, it is running under Docker, which is probably much slower than just using a normal web server, but still pretty cool, pretty awesome. You can go into folders. It is locally hosted, obviously. Now, you could put this on the web with something like Cloudflare tunnels or a reverse proxy or something like that. You could expose it, but it's running locally right now. So, pretty awesome, right? I think it's pretty cool, and that's definitely a good way to use Docker build. But you can see with a couple quick commands, you can do a lot here. So let's go back in here and just look at it again. So we have Docker site, and it is running. Okay. If we go into images now, though, we should have Docker site 2. That's the one we built manually, and then Docker site PHP FPM. That's the one we ran with the Docker compose file right there. And then here's Nginx, because we also you have used that on a couple different things. You can see it's got some stuff there too. This is pretty sick. Pretty cool to see how this all works. You can also see if this thing has some nested images in it, which is a good thing to note. Now in Portainer it looks a little different. Let's go look at it in Portainer, because that's gonna, again, I do this so you guys can just see different things with it, right? So I think it's helpful to understand what's happening here. Okay, yeah, so in here they don't nest them. See, the images are right here, whereas in Docker Desktop we have nested images. Same with here, so that one's nested, which can be a little bit confusing, so you just got to know that if you're using this. But in Portainer they're non-nested, and they're all right here. Now, if I've showed you this in previous videos, you want to get in and make another modification to your server. Now that it's up and running, you can easily come in here and do an execution, get a command shell, go in there, modify your Nginx server, modify something really easily. So it's really sick. But yeah, that's pretty much Docker build here for you guys. I hope you've learned a little something from it. There's a lot of good content in the Docker documentation about how to use Docker build, but I wanted to give you a real case, like use case that you could use. And this does Docker compose, Docker build, config files. Right here, this is basically all of the website files right here that you're seeing when you see the site load up. And I'm just pushing them directly into the container using that Docker build file, which is really what it's for. It's for editing images. So that's why you build them, so you can build it yourself and have all the edits done in the build and in that Docker file, which is pretty sick. So there you go. Hope you guys are understanding that. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I've really enjoyed learning about Docker files and how they function. And really easy. Just open a notepad, start typing away, and you'll have a Docker file of your own very quickly. So that'll wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Root Junkie out.